You're listening to the Angry Marks Podcast Network.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. My name is Arya Whitner, and this is your next audio update for Wednesday, September 6th, 2017. Before beginning, I do want to send my best wishes to everyone who is currently dealing with both the impending effects of Hurricane Irma. I want to continue sending my best wishes to the citizens of Houston with their slow recovery from Hurricane Harvey. And in case that's not just enough tragedy going on in the U.S. right now, I also want to send my best out to everyone in the states of Washington, Oregon, and Montana who are currently dealing with all of their forest fires. This is a screwed up time of the year right now. So the show this week kicked off with a rematch from several months ago with Cesar Bononi versus Andrade Cien Almas. If you recall, Bononi scored the upset win when Almas slipped on a banana peel. Zelina Vega joined the announce table, which surprised Percy Watson, even though there was an extra chair and headset sitting next to Percy this whole time. Vega said that Almas met her 7 years ago and brought her onto his team. Watson asked if anything more happened, and Vega told him off and told him to do his job and not worry about that. This was actually a more competitive match than the match where Bononi won, believe it or not. They teased a second win by Cesar with him getting a near fall with a really tight little small package, but Almas continued his winning streak with the hammerlock DDT. Almas had started to play to the crowd, but Vega screamed at him from the announce table, so he finished his foe off. After a recap of Adam Cole, Bobby Fish, and Kyle O'Reilly's beatdown of Drew McIntyre last week, Mr. Regal cut an angry promo backstage saying that Fish, O'Reilly, and Cole will no longer attack people outside the arena, and their fighting must be done in the ring. Velveteen Dream came upon a backstage interviewer and told her that the ambiance is still not right. However, after watching TakeOver Brooklyn, he was compelled by a man who needs his help and his experience. I'm sure there will be a lot of humor in that when we find out who he's talking about. My first instinct was Gargano, but Gargano's on the show later with no Velveteen Dream, so I'm thinking it might be Aleister Black, which is just, it's quite funny when you think about it. We got a 3-on-1 handicap match as Lars Sullivan took on 3 unnamed opponents, and just the fact that, his opponents never had a name, that probably gives you a heads up as to who won here. This was set up with Sullivan over the past few months destroying 3 different tag team partners after losing matches. Lars started the match by saying he wanted all 3 men in the ring at the same time, as opposed to where they were going to be tagging in and out. This ended up not being a problem for anyone, not the least of which being Sullivan, who heaved all 3 of them all over the ring for a couple minutes. The crowd really got into this, with somebody screaming that he's not finished with them yet, making a reference to Strowman. And Sullivan dropped all 3 of them with a Uranagi, and then making the cover and picked up the win. After the match, Sullivan continued to beat on all 3 of them, leading to No Way Jose fiestaing to the stage for the save. Seriously, he did not run to the ring. He didn't, do anything more than he began dancing on the stage, which caused Lars Sullivan to stop. So why didn't anyone ever try this before when Sullivan was beating down his former tag team partners? Anyway, Jose's mad that Sullivan attacked him in Brooklyn a few weeks ago. Jose made it to the ring and punched Sullivan in the mouth. And Jose, who you might recall is the babyface, Lars Sullivan, who is the heel, Lars Sullivan beat the crap out of No Way Jose in this fair fight where he was attacked by the babyface after his match. Sullivan finished Jose with another Uranagi. Earlier this week, Johnny Gargano did a press conference about sports entertaining at TakeOver Brooklyn. Gargano didn't blame Zelina Vega's interference for losing. In walked Tino Sabatelli and Riddick Moss, who brought up having an angle and match with DIY before Chicago. They told Gargano he needs to find a new tag team partner, and so Gargano challenged one of them to a match next week. I want to point out that I've watched NXT every week now since October of 2010. Okay, I've never been to an NXT house show. I've been to TakeOver, but I mean, Tino Sabatelli and Riddick Moss never was on TakeOver. But my point is, when they walked in, like, I remembered that they were somebody, but I had no idea what their names were, and I had to literally Google who the heck it was. And I imagine if I had to Google them and look up to see who it was, that I'm not the only person who had no idea who they were. So this really wasn't that great of an angle, at least in that regards, and it was never mentioned again. We got a recap from last week where Sanity was laid out, which led to a video where they called out Fish, Cole, and O'Reilly. Eric Young said one day they will realize that TakeOver was a huge mistake, and Alexander Wolf finished it by saying that they only care about is chaos. Sonya Deville versus Zeta next. Zeta went from losing to Shayna Baszler in the first round of the Mae Young Classic to losing to Sonya Deville in the third match this week on NXT. Zeta got in a kick, and that was it. Deville used her as a punching and kicking bag before submitting her with an arm bar. Earlier today, Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch were working out as a tag team when Ruby Riott asked Mr. Regal for a handicap match against Peyton Royce and Billie Kay. Mr. Regal said he couldn't sanction a handicap match because Ruby Riott hadn't destroyed two of her tag team partners in post-match angles. He didn't actually say that, but he did tell her to find a tag team partner for a match next week. We got the in-ring main event of the night. It was Hideo Itami and Cassius Ohno in a no disqualification match. This is the blow-off to their 4-month-long feud, which began with Itami losing to Bobby Roode back at TakeOver Chicago. Later on, they had a match where Itami intentionally got disqualified by kicking Ohno in the groin, and that all led us here to today. Itami tried to walk away at the start of the match, but Ohno wouldn't let him, and the fight was on. A few minutes later, when Itami was caving Ohno's chest in with kicks, I wonder if Ohno wished he would have just let him go. Itami grabbed a chair, but Ohno got away from him and went for the rolling elbow version of the Van Daminator, but Itami threw the chair right into the elbow of Ohno. After commercial, Ohno was starting to build a comeback, but all Itami would have to do is strike the injured elbow to take back the advantage. Itami went for a go to sleep, but Ohno got out of it and hit the rolling elbow, but Itami fell out of the ring. Ohno followed him out of the ring and up the ramp, with Ohno hitting another elbow strike. Ohno went for a suplex, but Itami blocked it and hit his own right there on the middle ramp. Back in the ring, Itami hit a corner drop kick where the chair was in Ohno's face, but Cassius ended up kicking out at 2. Itami's concentration was broken at this point because he bellowed to the crowd to show him respect. Itami went for a kick to the groin, but Ohno caught his foot. Itami went for the go-to-sleep again, but Ohno once again slipped out, and this time hit an uppercut to the groin, hit the rolling elbow, and picked up the win, officially ending this feud with Hideo Itami. Next week, Pete Dunne returns as he defends the United Kingdom Championship against Wolfgang. And finally this week, the show ended with an appearance by the undefeated, undisputed, reigning, linear NXT Women's Champion of the World, Asuka. You know, just to remind you, Asuka first appeared in NXT 2 years ago at the very first TakeOver Brooklyn show. She defeated Dana Brooke in her first official match at TakeOver Respect, and then she defeated Bayley for the title at TakeOver Dallas, and has literally defeated every single woman on the roster. Literally. I cannot believe that there is a single person under WWE contract, under NXT contract, that she has not defeated. from, Dana Brooke to Emma to Nia Jax to the Iconic Duo to Ruby Riott, Ember Moon, Bayley. Just, this is, this is a woman who dominated more than Goldberg ever did. This is just the end of something special, and it helped that at the end of the day, not only was her title reign something special, not only was her undefeated streak something special, but so was this final segment where she said goodbye. This was a special moment. Mr. Eagle was in the ring and introduced her to the cheering crowd. The crowd seemed to have a sense of what was going to happen as they were chanting, "Thank you, Asuka," from the very beginning. She stated that she loves NXT and has grown so much here. She's grateful for her time here. Mr. Regal called her one of the greatest champions in WWE history, which the NXT universe already knows. However, now other people have noticed. William announced that on behalf of Asuka, he's begun negotiations with the general managers from Raw and SmackDown, which the crowd exploded for. He said the bittersweet moment, though, is that Asuka is going to have to step down as champion. The fans began booing, but Mr. Regal shut them down and pointed out what a big deal this was, and now the entire world will find out that no one is ready for Asuka. The crowd celebrated. They cheered louder than I've heard them cheer for anything in a long time, as the entire locker room emptied out onto the stage to applaud her. Asuka said that no matter where she goes, NXT will go with her. Ember Moon pushed through the throng of talent, walked to the ring, and hugged her now former foe. Both cried in each other's arms, and it was really around this point where this really became a truly great moment. Fans were in the crowd crying as well. Triple H came down and hugged the now former champion, giving her a bouquet of roses as Asuka officially handed the title over, and the show ended with the crowd chanting, "Thank you, Asuka." So the queen is dead, but who is the new queen? Maybe we find out as soon as next week. But until then, I'll talk to you again in 7 days.